21 deaf students 2 months ago, administrator, exciting experience, overwhelming. What you just experienced gives you a glimpse of what deaf children who are deaf and hard of hearing go through every day of their lives. They live in a world which is not fully accessible to them. They live only parts of the human experience. However, American Sign Language, or ASL, has been proven to have significant benefits to all students, regardless of the degree of their hearing loss. Because these children are innately visual learners, sign language taps into that innate ability, providing immediate comprehension and connection, just like spoken languages do for those who can hear. With ASL, children receive immediate access to the world. They are able to make connections between dendrites in their brains. They make meaning where none was there before. They connect with other humans on a deeper level. In essence, they become whole. Sadly, even though ASL has been proven to support cognitive, emotional, and social development, millions of deaf children are still deprived sign language around the world, including here in the United States. Simon Sinek, in his book, Start With Why, explains that everyone has a why, a purpose, a cause, a belief that inspires you to do what you do. The continual language deprivation of deaf children is why I teach. My life work has been dedicated to the education and advocacy for all deaf and hard of hearing children to be given their most basic human right to a language that allows them to become full-fledged bilingual or even multilingual human beings with sign language and another language, be it English, Spanish, or Mandarin, whether it's in spoken or written form. Therefore, I am committed to breaking down the barriers, providing equal access, and improving the educational experience for deaf students, not only in the districts I work, but across the state and nation. This is my purpose. This is why I teach. Now, I'd like for you to think for a moment. What drives you? What makes you get up every day, head to work, and be the best educator you can be for your students? 2 guiding principles drive my work as an educator, encompasses why I teach, one of which I will share with you today. This guiding principle has been with me since the very beginning of my teaching career. It is based on a quote from Dr. I. King Jordan, the first deaf president of Gallaudet University, the only liberal arts university for the deaf in the world. It is, deaf people can do anything hearing people can, except hear. I just changed out the word people with the word children. Deaf children can do anything hearing children can, except hear. I always proudly hung this sign with this quote in every classroom I had. I shared it with my students, explained to them the history of this quote and the man behind it, and taught them about the Deaf President Now movement at Gallaudet that led to the selection of Dr. Jordan as the first ever deaf president in its 124-year history. I included this quote in my work email signature, hoping that those to whom I sent emails would receive a quick education about the deserved equality of the students I teach. I share this quote in conversations and during presentations. I even used it during my process for the Teacher of the Year. My guiding principle could be seen in my daily work and interaction with the students and their parents. Wanting to ensure that my students always knew that they had the potential to be anything they so chose, I made it a point to have deaf adults visit my classroom, either in person or virtually, to volunteer, read a book in the class, tell ASL stories, or share about their work. One time, we had a well-known deaf ASL storyteller chatting with us via Skype when the fire alarm went off. I had to tell them what was happening and that we had to leave. When we returned, he was still online waiting for us. He told us he was willing to wait because he was once a deaf child and understood the power of connecting with role models. As you know, children need role models, especially ones from the same gender, race, ethnicity, even disability. Many deaf children grow up feeling deficient, that they are not capable of doing things independently due to relying on others to do things for them. Essentially, they become disempowered by those who enable their thinking that they can't. It is imperative, regardless of who the students are that we teach, that we empower our students, that we instill beliefs in them that anything is possible, that they can. By allowing them to learn about and possibly meet successful adults from diverse backgrounds, our students feel empowered to take ownership of their learning and their success. My students learned that William Dummy Hoy was a deaf pro baseball player that invented the hand signals that are still used today. That Leah Hernandez Katz is the current receptionist to the White House, receptionist to the United States, working in the White House. That Sandra Mae Frank, a graduate from the Kentucky School for the Deaf, starred in the hit Broadway play Spring Awakening. And that Militia Hitch is currently a deaf lawyer in the Protection and Advocacy Agency here in Frankfurt. What I was unconsciously doing through all of this was actually demonstrating to my students that the "except here" part of my quote really wasn't that necessary. If I'm trying to teach them that they have potential to do anything with their lives, why continue to emphasize that they can't hear? However, after being in the field of deaf education for over 21 years, my perspective on this quote as my guiding principle suddenly changed. One night I was on Twitter, reading tweets from various deaf-related hashtags, hashtag DeafEd, hashtag deaf, hashtag deaf talent, when I came across a tweet that made me pause. A deaf person said that they disliked the quote from Dr. Jordan, the one that I've been proudly exclaiming to anyone who would listen. Of course, I had to engage in a conversation with her. She said the quote was fine in 1988 when Dr. Jordan first said it, but as a community, they have progressed beyond that. Why should they continue to be compared to hearing people? Why is it still surprising that deaf people can? Her comment really threw me for a loop. I never thought about it like that. Here I was thinking I was educating the public and empowering my students by saying this quote, having it serve as my guiding principle, and all this time, deaf adults were getting sick and tired of it being used over and over again. They are constantly being compared with hearing people, and by comparing, it points out their deficiencies. We as teachers should not be comparing students. Rather, we should be recognizing how their differences make them unique. And today, more than ever, diversity is embraced and celebrated everywhere. After that conversation, the first thing I did was go to my email and delete that quote from my email signature. I didn't have a classroom any longer, so I'd taken down a post so it was not an issue. I suddenly had a problem. I felt lost. How could I express my guiding principle, my why, without that quote? Actually, it wasn't a big problem at all. Without even realizing it, my guiding principle, my why, was transforming. The year prior, I went back to school to pursue my Director of Special Education certificate. During that time, I had to take a special education law class. I learned about various laws and court cases and how they affected special education. As I was taking this class, I was reading a book, The Human Right to Language, by Lawrence Siegel. Between this book and researching some court cases, I started to realize and accept that deaf children's access to language and education is truly a constitutional right. The First Amendment guarantees the freedom of speech, the right to express ourselves and be listened to. For deaf children, however, it means they have the right to understand what people are saying to them and the right to be understood. Does this mean that all deaf children have this right when they are placed in a mainstream classroom where they can only hear and understand a portion of what the teacher and classmates are saying to them, if at all? Does it mean giving hearing aids or surgically implanting a device and then have them spend hundreds of hours learning to hear and speak? What it means that, as I stated previously, deaf children have the right to language, and for them, the most accessible one is American Sign Language. When we deny this to them or force other forms of communication on them, we are denying them the First Amendment right. When we deny them opportunities to freely interact with their peers and adults in their language, we are denying them the right to free speech. I finally knew that my guiding principle transformed to be deaf children have the right to equal language and high-quality education just like all children. With my newly framed guiding principle, I began to see injustices for my students in the deaf community in different places I looked. For years, I included on my students' IEPs that all digital programming must be closed captioned. Since they cannot fully understand every word, showing closed captions provides them access. Unfortunately, too many videos, movies, TV shows are not captioned, and some that are, such as those that are on YouTube or other sites, use auto-generated captioning features which are not 100% perfect. I have seen some very inappropriate words displayed on the screen, which are not even close to what the person has said. Have you ever turned off the volume on the TV show you were watching and tried to guess what everyone was saying? That is in essence what deaf students have to do every time this video is shown without closed captioning. As educators, we are responsible to step outside of our shells every day to see the world through different lenses, through the experiences of all our diverse students, including what and how we teach. The United States government might not be ready to mandate that every video shared anywhere on any medium must be accurately captioned. However, we as educators can ensure that we hold ourselves to higher standards. Once we do that, our advocacy will trickle down. As an example, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation have a plethora of videos on their website and YouTube channel. However, there was a time where none of their videos were captioned. But due to their openness and willingness to improve and their focus on equity, now some departments of the foundation ensure that every video they produce has captions. When Teacher to Teacher wanted to upload their captioned videos to Facebook, Facebook did not have the capability to accept those captions. A few meetings with Facebook was all it took to make their website accessible to millions of deaf people around the world. Now anyone can upload a video with captions to their site. Through similar types of meetings with the foundation, Twitter is currently working on providing the same options. It is still a work in progress, but it is happening. Just like I have been transforming, these social media giants have been doing the same. Now, with closed captioning available, is the term "except here" still a factor? No, it is not. It is because we have all learned to adapt and to work together to tear down barriers. I share my story with you as an example of the power of transformational education and the connections we make with our students every day. Now I charge you to reflect on how you can transform your beliefs as you teach. Teaching is not about being set in stone, but always transforming, always being aware. Just as we educate our diverse students, we too must educate ourselves to be aware of how we teach and the guiding principles we encompass as teachers. With that, I say to you today, deaf children can do anything, period. Thank you.